Online marketing, this is chapter 7 from the digital marketing strategy book. So, chapter 7 just does a rough overview of planning a marketing strategy and how we would set up a plan. So, this is an example of the planning process. First, we have to know what is our strategy, what's the end goal of that plan, and then what are we currently doing. So we have this side-by-side vision-based planning and real-time planning example. So what is the future end of our goal? What are we currently doing? What are the actual measurable goals? So our objectives. So if we say we want to increase sales, that's our goal. Then what's the measurable objective of that goal? We want to increase sales 5%, 10%. We want increased customer traffic. We want a certain number of new customers. Then our strategies. What are the various strategies that are going to help us get to those goals? This all helps us develop our action plan, which is the timing of when marketing messages go out, what kind of marketing messages go out, who we send them to, what channels we use. And then once we put that plan in place, we evaluate it as it's happening and once it's over, and then evolve to make our next plan better. We use the information from our evaluation. How close did we get to our goals? Did we exceed our goals? Did one channel perform better than another channel? And then we use that information to make the next plan a better plan. So we evolve. So a strategy without a plan is just an idea. And in order to take that strategy to implementation, you need to have a plan. So it's this written idea, or at least, even if not written, it is an idea of how we get from one area to another. So where we are now and where do we want to get to? It's the how do we get there idea. Lack of planning usually results in spending more time, money, and resources than if we had originally planned. So, generally, if we don't have a plan, we just throw something out there or throw multiple things out there in a non strategic way to see what sticks. We might have issues, but we always end up spending more time and energy than if we had sat down and created that plan. So the book talks about two main different kinds of planning. First is vision-based planning, and then the next is real-time planning. So in vision-based planning, we start with the company's mission statement and our vision statement. So the mission statement is our current core business statement. Who are we? What do we do? A vision statement is where do we want to be in the future? So if we had a mission statement that said our mission is to deliver coffee within a certain geographic area, then our vision statement might be to we want to become the premier coffee market in our region. And so outperform all of our competitors. Then we establish the goals that go with that. What does that mean to become the premier coffee supplier or the premier market for something? The first place that people think of when they do that. What do those goals look like? Goals can be broad and far reaching, but then the objectives that we set for those goals need to be very specific. So we can say as a goal, we want to increase our market share, or we want to increase our new customer base. Then when we're making our objectives, we need to say exactly where we're trying to hit. We want to have 20 new customers in the next 6 months. Very specific, measurable objective. Then we implement action plans to fulfill each strategy. So action plans include our marketing plan. Where are we going to advertise? What are those advertisements going to look like? What is that content going to look like? Are we using email? Are we putting out on social media? Are we buying TV, print advertising, or are we doing a mixture of all of the above? We then put that plan into action and then evaluate it and change as needed. Real-time planning is a more casual model for planning. Okay? It does follow the same planning steps, but it looks at a shorter time frame. One of the reasons that real-time planning is implemented is because vision planning or long-term strategic planning used to be for a 10-year period. So when you talk to people who have been in business for a very, very long time, they might tell you that a strategic plan is a 10-year plan. What's going to happen to us in the next 10 years? Well, as technology became more used in business, those strategic plans shrunk from 10 years to 5 years. Now, with the way that technology evolves in the marketplace and consumer demand, our measurement of consumer demand evolves in the marketplace, sometimes 5 years is too long term to plan out. We're going to miss new technological advances in those 5 years. And so, while we should have long term plans, we also need to have shorter or real time plans, especially in marketing. Think about if we're releasing a new product, that's a real time plan. If we're having a sale, that's a real time plan. And those little real time plans all fit into one larger business plan. Okay? So the disadvantage of real time planning is that we don't have the long planning document that we can share with people. Okay? We can create communication plans, regular contact points, but with a vision-based plan, we actually sit down and write the full plan before we execute anything and we share it out widely. So one of the disadvantages is that we don't have that large plan. Okay? There are also phased approaches to planning. So this is where we split our strategy into smaller phases. We talked about this a little bit in chapter 6, where we talked about waterfall and agile-based project management. Those are both phased approaches. So that takes a large implementation and splits it down into key phases where we have a scheduling date with key milestones and we state who works on what part when. Okay? So the different kinds of phased approaches that the textbook talks about are calendar phasing, theme-based phasing, and business-based phasing. But these are some short-term types of phasing where we can look at more specific projects. So like in the theme-based phasing, this might be around a particular product that we're trying to push out in the market. And we would use a very specific type of marketing channel to deliver those messages. When we set our goals for these plans, goals are high-level statements about what we're looking to achieve the vision, long-term goals. They do need to be structured. We need to think about these are the 4 R's of goal setting. Do they fit within the mission? Does it fit within our business values and goals? Is it flexible so we can change it as needed? If our goals are written as part of a 3 to 5 year strategy, can we adapt those if we get to year 1 and realize that something massively has changed in the market? And is the goal easily understandable? When we share this out with the full business, will everyone outside of our particular team understand what we're trying to manage? And then within our goals, we create objectives. So those objectives are those very, very specific, measurable things. So if our goal is to increase sales, then we need an objective that states explicitly what increasing sales means. Does it mean that we increase sales by 5% from our previous quarter, increase sales by 5% from the same exact quarter of last year, or these examples here, achieve 100,000 online sales during a certain time period? Our objective should be SMART. So you've heard I'm sure about SMART goals in other classes. So SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. So specific answers the who, what, where, why, when. Measurable, how will we know if we've met the goal or when we meet the goal? So if we say 100,000 sales, we've met the goal when we hit 100,000 sales. They must be attainable, realistic, and achievable. Having stretch goals is a good idea where we have to stretch just a little bit to achieve them, but setting goals too high is actually a demotivator and has the opposite effect on morale and behavior. Relevant, it needs to fit within our strategy, vision, and mission, and time-based. We need a timeline for that. So when do we say we're going to hit this by? When are we going to stop measuring and see if we've met it or not? And then our strategies and our action plan. Okay? So in this sense of the word, strategy is the action plans we will use to meet an objective. So if we say we want 100,000 online sales, like that earlier slide said, then what are the strategies we're going to implement to meet that goal? Are we going to do some pay-per-click advertising? How much money are we going to put towards pay-per-click advertising? We're going to create landing pages. Are we going to do an email marketing campaign? Okay, so this is the how we're going to achieve that objective. Maybe a referral plan where we incentivize customers to send their friends to shop for us, with us. Okay, so the action plan is where all of our goals, objectives, and strategies come together. So 10 steps to an effective action plan: knowing our strategy, understanding the bigger picture, being specific so we can measure them, having deadlines, milestones, where we hit that measurement. Don't compromise. We can create our own factors within that and be clear and thorough. Then we have to control and review. So we were talking about planning. No plan works well if it's not executed well. So we need to make sure that we have a plan to actually implement and run. This is where we get into project management, again, where we talked about the waterfall and the agile in the last chapter. Agile and waterfall are both very specific types of project management where we set up how things are done and when. And a Gantt chart is one of the things that we can do as part of our planning. A Gantt chart is often used in project management to make sure that projects are staying on task. We also need to make sure that we're regularly reporting with our team and our clients, and reviews. So making sure that we're reviewing and measuring at different times. And maybe we have midpoint reviews so we can make adjustments as needed. You don't always have to wait to the end to see how something is working. If you see something in the middle that looks like it's not working and needs to be tweaked, then that opportunity should be taken when you see it. Okay? And then risk management. Risk management is another control. This is an example of a risk matrix and a way that we try to visualize risks and the importance of any or the likelihood of any of those risks happen. So we build a contingency in our plan to allow for mitigation to risks relating to budget or schedule. So is the impact of the risk going to be high or low? And is the likelihood of the risk happening? And then we can focus in on what are the most likely or most frequent risks that can happen with the highest impact. We're going to want to mitigate those risks first. Okay. And then good people skills. So understanding our strategies, making sure we have the correct skill set. We talked about the Myers-Briggs types indicator to help us understand personality types, which may have an impact on how someone makes decisions. When we're working within a team and trying to make sure that a project is going to be streamlined and working well, it helps to understand what motivates your team members, what helps drive them, what encourages them to work harder, and make sure that all of that stuff is being implemented. If you have a person on your team that's slow to making decisions, try to figure out what it is that makes that person make decisions faster. Do they need more data? Do they need a specific amount of time to mull over that information? Because not taking into account how the people on your team work and how they function can sideline any project. People are, of course, our resource. And this is the number of hours that we have available to us to work on an action plan. Okay? So what if this project that we're working on, we have this major marketing campaign coming out, but we still have to manage our current job alongside it. So this is that allocating time to business as usual activities. So recognizing that I still have things that have to be done all of the time, even though I might have this side project. So how many hours do I have in a week? How many staff do I have to tell me how many resource hours I have? Okay. We should also factor in leave, sick leave, any unexpected work, if a task gets sidelined, things that could sideline a task. Now, not really relevant in digital marketing, but when I worked for the city of Iowa City, I worked in, it is relevant to project planning. I worked in the Public Works Department, and Public Works is in charge of road construction projects within the city. And so part of our contingency planning with resource hours, how many hours are available each week, how many hours does each one of things take, but then we also had to, as part of that unexpected thing or task taking longer, bring in that risk factor of number of days that it could potentially rain in a month that would sideline the amount of work that we could do. And then our budget and forecast. So we need to know how much money we have to spend. The master budget is the full budget for the entire business. Okay? The marketing budget is just a component of the master budget. So first we do forecasting. So and we all know that budget forecasting all starts with sales. So we do a sales forecast that helps us project all of our other information when we need to have inventory on hand, what our cash flows look at from cash from sales. Okay. One forecasting technique is a trend-based model. So this looks at our budget against a 13-month rolling performance. So we're looking at month-on-month and year-on-year figures. So when I'm looking at February, I'm looking at last year's February results compared to the projections for this February. I'm also looking at trends from all Februarys for several months, and just kind of our trends in general. Okay, so all of this stuff factors into when I might want to increase a marketing campaign. For example, if I know that our sales dip after Christmas and it'll take a couple of months to pick them back up again. So maybe I want to focus my marketing budget on campaigns in January, February, and March to try to carry over some of those Christmas sales. How can I get people to keep spending in January, February, March after that big holiday spend is over? Am I in an industry where maybe people in the Midwest are more inclined to buy from me in February and January because they're stuck inside with cold weather? So thinking about all of those different things that we've put together and recognizing that we will be constrained by our budgets and our forecasts. So that is all of chapter 7 from the digital marketing strategy text.